horse drifted alarmingly in the betting, was, fancied in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
A big warm welcome to the Sunday sermon. We're back. Just the two of us today, though. There's no Chris. But joining me, as always, is my partner in crime, who's in absolutely outstanding form with his Midlands National winner yesterday. He's going to walk away with the Winter Naps King trophy. It's Jonas Lang.
Just wait till I get cracking on the flat.
He's put us all to the sword this winter. He hates the winter. It's depressing. But I can safely say he's absolutely bouncing at the moment. We've got the 5 to follow to come out for the flat. That's going to be aired, I think, in about 10 days. And he's bouncing because he knows Doncaster is getting nearer and nearer. Anyways, on to our show, which we've got. It's an absolute cracking show, this one. Talking about and moaning about a lot of things to do with the fairs and all sorts and what people have said and what they haven't said. First of all, though, and we've got some good points of view from you this week. Later in the show, we'll get to that. But to start the show off, John, we're going to talk about Cheltenham and the review of the action of the week. So we'll start with Tuesday. There's not a dry eye in the house after Honeysuckle won the Mayor's Hurdle and possibly retired. They didn't sort of 100% say that was the last. They haven't categorically came out and said that's it. Who knows? You know what racing's like. But if that's the last race, John, was that a fitting end to Honeysuckle's career?
Well, when you said not a dry eye in the house, I thought you meant how my eyes were watering after Correct Rambler held off fast or slow. That was soul-destroying. But that
utterly
heartbreaking. But
yeah, especially because the Northallerton feed man had backed Correct Rambler. So
yeah,
that was very disappointing.
Yes, I had him at my left shoulder, bellowing in my ear to hold on, while I'm sat there biting through my tongue.
Yeah.
Well, right. Yeah, Honeysuckle, terrific. Great signs, lovely for Dracula, lovely for Rachel, lovely for all concerned. Can't take anything away from them.
Felt Lydia gave an amazing interview with De Bromhead. That was just, as interviews go, that was the interview of interviews. I don't know if you listened to it.
Yeah, this is what you get with Lydia, though, isn't it? You get the impression she's not just there for the salary, unlike a lot of others. She does actually care about the game and cares about decent people within the game.
Can't argue with any of that. Definitely one of my favourites is Lids. Right, going on to Constitution Hill then. Now, for me, I was uber blown away by it, but I sort of put a post on Twitter just to wind a few up, and it got a few bites. You can see that it was only like 0.3 seconds faster than the Supreme. And then all of a sudden, no one wants to know about time anymore. No, forget times. But it was only a wind-up post. I mean, this is something special in it, John. I think this gets a Gold Cup entry. And I think they'll be looking at the ground. Because obviously, if we have downpours, I could actually see this running in a Gold Cup.
This is probably the nearest thing we're going to get to an Arkle in our lifetime.
Yeah. Well, the thing I'd say about when people, it has got, obviously it's a terrific engine. Of course it has. You can't do what he's done without the engine he's got. But the one thing I will say in sort of whether he'd be as good as we think on the flat is he's such a good jumper and fast, electrically fast. Whether he would reach the heights that we think that some people would think if you ran him in a Gold. In fact, where are you, John? If he ran in the Gold Cup, it's soft ground, 2 mile 4 Ascot. Is he fav?
No, I don't think so. I think they run the risk of wasting him on the flat, and they might just pop his balloon as well. I don't think they need to run on the flat.
Well, you know what Endo's like as well, John. They will go chasing, obviously, at some point, but you know what Endo's like. He loves a set plan, right? It'll be a fighting fifth, Christmas hurdle, champion hurdle.
It possibly will be. I think Buckley might have something to say about that.
Well, that's it. Buckley, when I use
he was a guesser.
Yeah, like Buckley. I mean, look at when he went to the Breeders' Cup with the Osborne horse. You know the one. He finished second in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Now, Streets of New York. Was that it? Streets of New York. Anyway, so Buckley loves a curveball. He loves this. Right. That might be an option because he's a flat man essentially. Michael Buckley is more known for flat horses and so on and so on. And I just think he's going to have the urge at some point to go, Prix de Cadran, maybe back end. Rather than fighting fifth, why not try Prix de Cadran? You're not going to fall. You're not going to fall down. It's a free stab at seeing where you are on the flat because it's in your prep for the jump season. Do you think that could be on an agenda?
He could do it. Short of speaking to him and finding out what's on his mind. I personally don't think he'll have another year hurdling.
Interesting. So, right, if you owned him then, right, what are you doing with him now?
I'd make sure he had an entry for the Arkle and the Champion Chase.
Yeah.
And if the novice campaign went well, I'd go Champion Chase.
It's interesting you say that. Obviously, a lot of traditionalists say, it's got to be the Arkle. It's got to be the novice route. But you could see them going, like, right, we might as well...
He takes a fence as well as he takes a hurdle. What's the point running in the novice?
Yeah, you might as well sack the novice off. Yeah, exactly. Good. Yeah, I totally agree with that. What a horse. Yeah, we've got to join the bandwagon. This is a tremendous horse of a lifetime, I think, there. Anything catch your eye on day one, John, to mention maybe going forwards?
Yeah, Michael O'Sullivan.
The pilot.
Superb ride in the first race. Absolutely superb. He let Facile Vega go, knowing the horse's reputation. And he sat there full of confidence, knowing that what he had under him would have been very easy to go straight away when Facile Vega went. He didn't. He showed an admirably cool hand there. I think the kid's destined for the absolute top.
One of the funniest interviews I saw all week was Gordon Elliott after he won on Jazzy Matty on the same day, the Tuesday, in the Fred Winter. Old Fat Gordon come on and he said, they don't give much praise to these lads. Again, another good ride on Jazzy Matty. He said about Mikey, he said, I didn't realise his claim had dropped to 3. And he said, I thought it was 5. Had I known it had been 3, I wouldn't have put him on. Gordon, you fucking, terrible man. Praise for the lad. But no, he seems very grounded, John. Listening to Mikey O'Sullivan in interviews, he seems a really grounded fella. I like him.
There's nothing not to like. And as I say, for a kid riding a high-profile horse in the Supreme Novices like he did, I think you've no worries about him going forward at all.
No. Okay, Wednesday, we saw plenty of action with the Champion Chase, etc., etc. I've had several comments on Langadan in the Coral Cup in terms of the spins for a mark. But come on, chaps, we know the game. The Irish do it. It's how it goes. A lot of my Irish bets in handicap hurdles are watching for horses that are just ridden just for this meeting. So
yeah, I was particularly thrilled myself. I backed an epic song.
Yeah, I did.
So you can imagine my delight at Langadan beating him by a head.
It's kind of the Roy Hodgson gif, isn't it? The excitement. We're going to get there. We're going to do it, and then up pops Dan Skelton with his pie-eating face to annoy you.
Skellycopter.
Getting the Skellycopter afterwards. So, yeah, disappointing for us there. Anything catching your eye on Wednesday? I'm going to start us off. I mean, obviously, the Champion Chase won by an Ergamine. I don't know how many horses ran the races in that, if I'm honest. It looked like a race that just fell apart and, I don't know, long seasons, whatever, but I don't know. I won't take the form at face value. For me, I'm going to give a horse out to back Antipers for next year. And it's the one I'm particularly excited about. For a yard, really, that Paul Nicholls, I'm not really a fan of the yard at the festival because of, he's had 2 winners this year and he's done well to have 2, to be fair. But Captain Teague in the Champion Bumper finished 3rd. I ran a brilliant trial for me for the Albert Bartlett. That wins the Challow next year. He'll go Challow, Albert Bartlett. And for me, I think that if you get a decent anti-purse price, you know what these dirty books are like, but if you can get something decent, something worthwhile, you've got to be looking at this stage, you want 14, 16 to 1, round that mark to have something to say, that's value. I think Captain Teague, it's an absolute 3 mile hurdler chaser. It's going to be a really good horse, this. Won its point over 3. It looked a slogger. It looks an absolute butch slogger. And like I say, it'll win the Cheltenham and then it'll win the Albert Bartlett for me next year. So that's the one, folks, going forwards. John, have you got anything on Wednesday you'd like to mention in terms of to follow or anything that caught your eye?
No, it's pretty grim stuff for me on Wednesday, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, I was pleased for Patrick Neville, actually, with the real whacker. Thought it was a real genuine performance. But the ride maybe on Jerry Colomb, a lot of people gave Jordan Colin Gainford a lot of stick for that. But we'll come on to that because we've got a whip topic. And me and John are going to talk about the whip as well later in the show. So going to Thursday, John, any talking points for Thursday?
Well, my main talking point for Thursday was the eclipse of Matey Potter, which let me in for a 5-horse accumulator. But apart from that, I didn't really trouble the judge, to be honest. I toyed with backing Envoy Allen in the Ryanair and then thought, don't be so fucking stupid, it rather stinker last time. I hummed and hard about your side of Berlin, the stairs hard, and I thought, don't be so fucking stupid, the horses.
Like most people, to be fair,
yeah. So, again, it was pretty much a waking nightmare for me, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm refusing to trumpet winners on this show, but obviously if you follow me on Twitter, System Bet or Barstridge, you'll know that I did give it a mention or listen to the podcast outside of Berlin, but I hate doing that. I know punters in general don't like trumpeting big prize winners, so I'm not going to go there. So I'd like to mention in the Turners, they went so steady and it was such a tactical affair that the form is literally worthless. If you backstage star, you've collected your money, well done, you've boomed, you've produced your betting slips on Twitter. But there's no way Stage Star would win that race given a proper pace or anything else. It was a red carpet act. Stage Star led, not long till May sat on its shoulder and won the race. The horse to take out of the race is definitely appreciated. I think that horse was given a stinker of a ride. Who decides the tactics in the Mullins house for that race? They dropped it out when you know that at 2 miles, it's too slow for 2 miles at the top level. So they've upped it to 2.5. And on D-Day, it's the championship race. What do? Hold it up last. What a moron. I think that horse can improve a lot. I think that's the best horse in the race for me on what I saw. And that would be worth looking at Fairy House. It's in the 2.5 mile grade 1. That could be one for that if the race cuts up, although I think Willie Mullins has mares in that, and I don't like the £7 mares allowance. We need to do away with the £7 mares allowance. I've been saying this for a long time. It shouldn't be there. They've got a good mares programme now, so they don't need to moan the breeders about, oh, you've got to give mares a chance to help the breeders. No. If you want to race in Grade 1 company, you shouldn't be getting £7. That's a lot of weight, to receive from the male counterparts. I think it should be less than that. I think there should be an allowance, but not 7. I don't think that's right at all. It's like the old 3-year-old weight for age on the flat, John, where there was a big edge for 3-year-olds turning June, July, and then the BHA amended it. So this needs amended, BHA. The £7 for mares, you get a very good mare. It will thrash the good boys with the £7. So I'm not in agreement with that. We need to get rid of that. We'll put Thursday in the bin then, John, and go to Friday. Any talking points on the Friday? Anything that you saw?
I personally thought that the Bromhead horse in the Gold Cup, last year's winner, was extremely unlucky when the faller brought Sounds Russian, is it, of Jefferson's?
Yeah, Hewitt brought down Sounds Russian, yeah.
Brought down, Rachel couldn't avoid the melee. That put paid to his chance. I thought Rachel was in the process of riding a peach of a race following the favourite. And I'm very curious as to find out what would have happened. I don't think that saga's completely done with yet.
No, I'll tell you what, I was really impressed with the seconds jumping Brave Man's Game. It was an exhibition, an absolute exhibition. And also to mention from the race, what a superb race it was, by the way, the Gold Cup. An enthralling finish.
It was gripping, wasn't it? You know, it was actually an interesting Gold Cup to watch from start to finish.
Yeah. And the thing for me also to take out of it, John, Noble Yates for the Grand National. This ran an absolute superb trial for that. I've been saying it all season about Noble Yates. It's kind of the campaign I like. I like what they've done with the horse. They've not particularly over-raced it, but they've kept it busy, fairly busy. And with the bigger gap to Aintree this year than what you normally get, I think Noble Yates, even off a stupid weight.
I'm a bit worried, actually, if it'd been a normal gap, because he had enough race, I thought.
He did. But I did feel he finished his race off. And so, But I think with the extra gap, John, I think that could be crucial.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So Noble Yates, who knows, that might be a well back favourite in the end. That could go off a well bet horse on the day, because that was a great trial, I felt, for the Grand National. I mean, we could cover all the festival races, but we could do a 2-hour show on it. And you know, there's lots of other podcasts that are reviewing certain races, but I think we've given listeners enough there insight going forwards. I've given you the Albert Bartlett winner next year, for God's sake. What more do you want?
If you want a comprehensive review of the festival, fuck off somewhere else.
What you really want to hear now, and most of you will have probably skipped the first part, because you'd have gone, they're talking about fucking form. Who's interested in form? We want gossip and scandal. This is where we thrive as a show. Okay, so we're going to go on to the first topic, which is Cheltenham, John. Jeff Banks, actually, I know, hear me out. Jeff Banks actually said about the fences being softer. He's the only one to point that out on Twitter, on the Barsters timeline anyway. But I had already sort of got that inkling, because if you look throughout the week, you've got the tank El Fabiolo that just basically smashed through all the fences, didn't jump well at all. It hit the last as well for good measure and still won easy. And then you've got like Shishkin that made that absolutely ridiculous howler at the second last, where in years gone by, horses end up on the deck. They don't get up from that. Cheltenham was an unforgiving course if you didn't bring your grade A jumping.
The funny thing is, Lee, I started the week, as you always do at Cheltenham, dreading that downhill fence just before you come into the straight.
Yeah.
And when we're on fast or slow, and he's travelling well into the race, I'm thinking, right, just get over this fucker now.
Yeah.
And we're in.
Yeah.
Get over this fucker. This is it. Get this right. By the end of the week, I didn't give a flying fuck what was going into that fence at all. I'd become utterly desensitised to the danger of that fence, because I don't think we had any focus at it.
Now, there's something that's gone on, and I've got data to actually prove this now. Right, so I did some digging, and they did look soft. The fences look softer. In other words, you could belly them, or you could sort of hit them 2/3 of the way up, and you weren't going to pay the price. And so I've analysed all the fallers at Cheltenham since 97. 21 to 23, there's been 27 fallers in total. There were 12 this year, which was more than 21 and 22. But still, 12 is very low. In fallers over chasers, by the way. Not hurdles, chase fences. So if we could then go to 2018 to 2020, there were 48 fallers. So that's like 21 more.
Yeah.
Then we go to 15 to 17, there was 52 fallers. And then in 12 to 14, there was 49 fallers. And 9 to 11, 2009 to 2011, there was 46 fallers. So what we've seen here, remember when they modified the Grand National fences at Aintree? And there was a big hoo-ha about it. Oh, you're killing this game's about jumping. You're just pandering to the animal welfare. What's this baloney? Cheltenham, for me, and I'll make an accusation, might not be true, but for me, have done something in the last 3 years, but they haven't made it public. As in, this could be a jockey club initiative, a BHA. They've gone behind the scenes and said, right, we need to make sure that there's less horse deaths on a racecourse. Now, there's two sides of the fence here. And some people say, what? Two sides of the fence? Are you against animal welfare? No, of course I'm not against animal welfare. Of course I want to see horses return home safely, etc., etc. But is this a game changer? Are we now looking at a sport that to increase its longevity, John, in terms of survival in the wider world, wanting it banned, are they doing things that are basically making these fences softer? So now, have breeders got to look at certain aspects of this? Have trainers, everyone in the sport got to look at certain aspects of, do you need the old 17 hands?
The trouble with this theory, right, if Cheltenham does this, as alleged, every other course would also have to make their fences safer.
Adam Norman is adamant that some tracks are already doing this in the north. So carry on, John.
I can't see every course in the country conforming to this without going public to a certain extent, saying it's cost us X amount to have all our fences modified or whatever. Unless they're getting funded behind the scenes, which would mean you'd have to have a look at a balance sheet from somewhere, see where, you've got to follow the money, haven't you?
And it just about like producing less birch though. The thickness of the birch, that's what makes them fall. If you've got like a really thick, look, I'm not an expert on this, so I might be talking through my anal hole.
Through birch to a certain extent, it's the core of the fences, isn't it? The core of the national fences used to be like fucking railway sleepers. I've seen them fences undressed, if you like.
Yeah.
And they did look like railway sleepers. And they used to tie them quite loosely, so they rattled when the horses jumped over them. It was quite thrilling, really, if you were stood next to one of the fences, But that aside, now it's a plastic car. Now, could they be replacing the cars on all fences with plastic? If that's the case, why not? Horses still see an obstacle to jump. And if they get away with it, I'm fairly ambivalent about it. I think the more that get round, the better. Horses develop a style where they're brushing through the top again. So what? It's the same for them all to jump. They're all going to jump them, aren't they? Nothing's going to walk through one.
But the purists will say, John, and maybe it's the end of the purists for the sport. That this is where I'm getting at. The purists that will say this game is about the ability to. I mean, it's like why people go to Olympia to watch the Horse of the Year show.
But how many are killed there?
Well, yeah, none. But it's a thrill watching a horse jump.
You're still asking it up.
Yeah.
There's not one horse going to go to Cheltenham thinking I can run through these. They're all going to try and take off.
I get the project and why it works in terms of right. You're going to get less deaths, which you should do, and which they are doing. And that's been proven in the Grand National remodification, less deaths.
Yeah. And
we had one, I think, at the Cheltenham meeting this year. If I'm right, I might be wrong on that, but I think it was Marinello. I think that's the one that fell and came to its end. But obviously, that's the nature of the sport. You are going to get that, of course. But if there's less for people to clamber on the ban the sport train. And that's a plus. But I'm still saying, John, out there will be national hunt purists that will be upset at this because the fact remains that jumping has always been a test and a test of a horse's ability to be able to get from one side to the other in spectacular fashion. That's why people go out into the middle on the cross-country course to watch them jump. Well, strange fences, if you like. But
again, though, the cross-country fences will be among the softest you'd ever find anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely, ferns and stuff like that. Yeah. It's not. It won't be a particular spectacle. But look, I get both sides of the debate. To be honest, I'm with you. I'm more with you than not.
I think it's we may not being a particular fan of the jumps, to be honest, as well. I'm not steeped in the tradition of national hunt racing. I think an obstacle's an obstacle. A horse will try and come up at it, and if less fall, so much the better.
Yeah. What do listeners think? Get in touch on Twitter, etc., YouTube. I'm happy to debate on the subject, but I would say that there's a balance to be had here. There'll be people on both sides on this debate, and I think that's where we're at. We'll leave that on that. But the stats back up that Cheltenham have definitely messed with the fences, and I would definitely back that up on what I've seen. Okay, so this brings us on to sort of another BHA medal topic, John, where the whip rules. Yeah. And since the whip rules have been in place, you made a very good point on Twitter the other day about you wouldn't want to back horses now, especially in national hunt races, that usually need a sort of good reminder, a good to get competitive.
Well, and like you said about it, like some of these horses need a fucking leathering.
They're very lazy, yeah.
But they do.
Yeah.
I mean, unpalatable as that may sound, in order to make them do their best, they need a leathering. Them horses are fucked.
It's kind of, right, where I sit on it, again, I'm sorry for being a stats geek and a numbers geek. It's what I do. But the fact remains that since the whip rules have been brought into play, I could give you some stats here. This is over fences, which are known for the laziest types. The ones that run over fences tend to be the
black port of call, isn't it? You're getting slower and slower and sourer and sourer.
Yeah.
You get your cheek pieces on, your blinkers on,
yeah,
your big massive sheepskin noseband, probably a fucking grapple bit and whatever else you can throw on the bloody thing, and you need a bloody big stick as well. You're struggling now.
Right, so it's 24% in 2022 for front runners over chasers. So 24% strike rate if you led the race in a chase race. So in 2023 already, after the whip rules were brought in, it's up to 28% front runners. And I think that's significant. People say, short supply of data, variance. But the fact remains, John, and you made a very good point, that jockeys seem, because of the punishments, which are very severe and will harm a jockey's living significantly. If you get a 7-day ban as a regular jockey over national hunt fences, that in income terms could be, I'm guessing, if you're quite a successful jockey, it could be in the region of £3,000 to £5,000 in terms of like rides and.
I didn't have a lot of bets this week, which made things a bit easier as regards looking at things fairly dispassionately. Again, this is anecdotal and I have no stats to back this up, but I cannot remember a festival where so many horses are being held on to coming down the hill.
To be fair, they're riding a bit more like the Irish do. So Britain used to be all about, right, let's bound off, let's go good gallop, tally her, pursue the best horses. Ireland tends to crawl round and accelerate from sort of 4 out.
You take like the Coral Cup, for example, there was always somebody got a kick in the belly at the top of the hill that jumped that hurdle and then swings down the hill 3 or 4 clear, and they're going for it, aren't they? And everybody else gets a squeeze on down there.
Yeah.
Didn't happen this year because they're all saving the strokes. They don't want to start shoving along because shoving along is usually backed up with a backhander. You don't want to use a backhander.
Plus as well, John, right? Imagine as a jockey, right? So you're concentrating on like meeting a stride, getting it right at fences, etc., etc. I might lose count sometimes. How many times have I used it? I don't know if it's 4, 5, or 6. I can't remember.
In the heat of battle, it's almost an impossible ask. I would excuse any jockey going 2 or 3 over,
especially from disqualification. I think that that's terrible for connections. Imagine if they've hit the threshold. To lose a race and prize money must be like soul destroying, especially if it was a good ride as well, which we've seen. We've seen good rides.
You'd want to be out the game, wouldn't you? Because there was no abusive rides, and you'd be hard pressed to say any of those jockeys that were banned when the first rule change was made, if any of them actually delivered what you class as abusive rides, because I think there was some way short of that.
So the way the game's going then, and the way the game's going, once you start hedging away into like cracks and smacks and stuff, it only goes one way. It doesn't go the other way. They aren't going to increase it ever again. So it's going to only like decrease. It might even decrease in a few years. People might say, oh, this is too many, so we're going to lower it again. Where the game's going, breeders really should be alert to this. And I'm sure we have a few breeders listening to this podcast. I think the days, John, of breeding slow old birds are finished.
You certainly wouldn't want to be buying one.
There's just no point. There's no point to anything that sort of needs reminders, lazy types. It's the end of the big lazy type, is it not? Look at collector's item. We joked on Friday's show, it ran at your Toxicity Saturday, and we said about, this could be the end of the way we tip horses or bet horses, because I even pointed out that collector's item got a bit lazy last time at Haydock and, messed about.
I think it could be accentuated over the sticks, but I'm making it a consideration this flat season, how anything I bet travels.
Yeah. Well, like Prescott, for example.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Prescotts over time, they've required a lot of Luke Morris thrashing, if you like.
I mean, Ascot's going to be a problem, I mean, traditional hold-up track over a mile and a half, mile and a quarter with pace on. But how many winners have we back there that have needed 8+ smacks to get there?
Well, that's it.
But if they aren't going to get them, they ain't getting there.
Which is why, like about breeders, in terms of like Cheltenham prospects, to me, watching like some winners this week, like El Fabiolo, that's got a massive engine, massive tank. The fences didn't slow it down. Galloping Deschamps didn't jump well in the Gold Cup and still won because it has gears, right? So if you're going to make the game that way, where it doesn't become a jumping test, all of a sudden you need to buy a different type of horse. The game has changed. Overnight it's changed. The ruling body has changed the game. So breeders need to be aware of this. I think now you're just going to have to breed, like Rocky's trainer said in Rocky 2, John, speed, chase that chicken, greasy, fast, lightning, speed.
Well, the thing was, I mean, again, the Gold Cup winner impressed me enormously by the fact that, unlike the runner-up, who was Andy all the way, he initially started out the back.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't have to get after the horse to get up there.
Oh, no, he's a machine. But he's got gears. That's the thing. Yeah. You can't do that without serious gears.
No.
You can't get there and travel like a travelly thing and then just blast past it. Yeah, he's just an immense horse. But
you'll probably get to like a race like a Derby or something like that, where class might allow you to travel into the race. Your ledger types that were running in derbies aren't going to run on into third or fourth.
No.
You're going to be looking for your ledger bet finishing 7th or 8th.
It's a good topic. Again, listeners, get in touch with your views on it. Where do you think the game's going? Me and John are already planning our punting around this. We're not really that bothered about lazy horses anymore. We want some horses that are going to do it handy on the Billy Idol. Will that affect all the front running stats, etc., because these lazy horses can't get there anymore? So people always talk about the game. James Knight talks about the whip rules on Twitter. Coralman.
I think eventually it could affect markets as well, because I think you'll find everybody's showing up to back the handy free going types.
Yeah.
You could find some lazy horses very, very hard to resist round Ascot and Doncaster.
Yeah, I tell you, this is a game changer for us. So model this into your punting, perhaps, folks. This is something to consider. Okay, moving on to Cheltenham Attendances, John. Cheltenham this year, heavily down. I can't be asked to read the figures, etc., but obviously they're significantly down. That's had an effect in terms of punters' experiences, that some punters have gone and absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it again, because obviously Cheltenham aren't just filling the game out, making it 20-minute queues for a piss and things like that. People was really happy this week that went. They said it was a better sort of experience. Why do you think the attendances are down, John?
A day's racing really does consist of a race car getting their pants pulled down, doesn't it? It's too dear to get in. We know that. The food and drinks ridiculously priced. There's a cost of living crisis, and one of the first things to go in a cost of living crisis is purchases where you know full well you are getting ass ripped. You can't blame people for cutting back.
Cheltenham's never been cheap in modern times anyway. It's never been affordable in terms of admission fees. In fact, I've got some data here on admission fees. So for example, the main increase really is the sort of, rather than Cheltenham increasing admission prices, the most expensive things are things like train travel, etc. For example, London Paddington to Cheltenham Spa ticket in 2019, and this was an advance return ticket. So if you were travelling from London, it was £50 in 2019, In 2023, it's £80. So that's a 60% increase. So that's advanced as well. That's not like close to time. Cheltenham, I don't think, helped themselves though in certain aspects. For example, if you were to get a return bus ticket from Cheltenham Spa Station, which is walkable by the way to the track, it's not that far. For somebody that's able-bodied and fit, could walk it. The return bus from Cheltenham Spa is £6. That's a bit of a piss take. But even more of a piss take, the standard car park at the racecourse is £22, John.
Yeah.
22 notes to park your wagon. I mean,
it's blatant profiteering, isn't it? It's not necessary.
I mean, do you know what I'd do? I mean, the thing is, I think the way we've gone, we don't treat the punter with sort of like respect anymore in terms of what I'd do. If I ran Cheltenham, I'd do a car park. You might price it, say, 15, 20 quid. But what I'd do is I'd do a free return bus service to the car park. So you keep the cars out of Cheltenham. I'd do it way out of Cheltenham so there's no traffic in the town centre. Don't piss off the locals. The buses come in, take the punters in, and the buses come out and take the punters out. And it's like you don't need to profiteer off basically getting punters to and from the track. That's where I take offence. That's sort of wrong in a way.
£10, I'd want it relishing.
Yeah, you'd expect the little men, like washing your windscreen. Absolutely, yeah. And the Racing Post, for example, this is for punters, £2.90, John, in 2019. £4.50 this year, a 55% increase for a rag that's a bag of shit, in all honesty.
I can't remember the last time I bought a Racing Post.
No. I mean, I do subscribe online, so I occasionally read the digital stuff, but it's occasionally. I usually comes out on Twitter, something like Motter's Ed article or something like that. I'll pick up on Twitter, but I don't open it every day or anything like that. The pint of Guinness is £7.50, a burger's £10.50, but as we've seen with food inflation, that's to be expected. I'm not really going to slag off Cheltenham for the food prices this year because I know people have commented on it, say it's ridiculous, but you've only got to go to your local supermarket. I mean, John, even I've gone from Marks and Spencer's to Aldi at the moment.
Well, I hope that alters around the time York comes round.
To be honest, like some Aldi products are tremendous. So, like, yeah, we're finding this out, and because I looked at my food bills, I thought, Jesus Christ, this every week, and we're knocking about 30 or 40 notes off a week, but some of the stuff is like comparable. I'll upgrade, John, for your anyway. I won't leave you short. So Cheltenham Attendances, so it could be a various set of reasons. They were also trained to strike, I think, on the Stayers Hurdle Day, etc. But it could be various reasons. But what's disconcerting also about the Cheltenham meeting is the Brits might have had 10 winners this year, which isn't bad in terms of how we've done in sort of certain past years. But the Utoxeter card, John, on Saturday suggested to me that British trainers are not that bothered about the Fez and not bothered in taking on the Irish.
It's not entirely stupid, in my opinion. Why not? There's opportunities elsewhere. There's opportunities all season. You know, I mean, we've been saying there's certain prizes where there's like 4 and 5 runners turning up. You say, well, what's the British trainers thinking over here? You know, are they waiting for Cheltenham to take on a bunch of horses they can't beat? I don't blame anybody for swerving it when you're kind of up against the stacked deck, aren't you?
Is that it, though? And bring another subject in here about anti-purse prices at Cheltenham. The books here have found a way how to rinse the punters, haven't they? What they're doing is they go non-run and no bet from sort of January onwards.
Yeah, and put day race prices up.
Like literally flapping track prices. And you'll find you'll beat most of these prices on the day. Especially not a fav. Right, the favs probably, yeah, I can understand why punters would punt a fav or a good fav, like quite far out. But if you fancy, say, like a 20s perk, in say something, you think, oh, that's not bad at 20s. I'll guarantee you it'll be 38s on machine, or it'll be 25s with the books on the day. My advice to punters is you're absolutely being rinsed. Do not fall for this non-run no bet from January. It's no longer the gravy trade. You've either got to get well in advance, like I said about the bumper horse I gave you for the Albert Bartlett, like a year in advance, or you just don't bother till the day. Just literally bet on the day. Don't bother with these preview nights, and it's literally a cash cow for the books. They're getting you in at ridiculously crap prices. And then on the day, they're miles bigger. It's embarrassing, and the books know what they're doing, and that's the game. It's the punters versus the books. The books have worked out how to dupe punters into betting January and February at crap prices, because most punters can't work out what's a good price and a bad price. Sad to say, but that's how it is. So the books know this. So my advice to punters is you either back well in advance, as in sort of early season, well before Christmas, where it's not non-runner no bet, or you back on the day. That's it. Do not fall for this preview night ramble. Oh, look at this price, and we're going to give you a special price on this one, because these special prices are usually miles bigger on the day anyway. So kick that into such. John agrees with me on that. I know he does. Right, so we're going to come on to some fun parts of the show now. Just one more thing, though. I was upset at the BHA this week again, John, because on the week of Cheltenham, right, this is the mecca of the national sport. What were they doing? I can tell you what they were doing. They were retweeting a sort of a gambling harm organisation during the week, advocating safer gambling. You might do that another time, and I'm not saying
it's Harrington's lack of understanding, isn't it, of how the sport's funded.
Yeah, they didn't produce one tweet all week about betting on horse racing or like promoting horse racing, right? Like to a great degree. They just produced 2 tweets for me: a retweet of a gambling harm group and a retweet of a drink aware group.
The BHA at the moment, the way it's running racing, is akin to taking away a sick man's prescription and advising him to have a crack at becoming immortal.
It's true. It's a great. That's brilliant. But yeah, they're absolutely spot on. I just fail to understand that basically when you're when you're running a business, you need a USP, a unique selling point. What is the unique selling point of racing? Well, Mark Johnston thinks it's racing itself, and you can just basically sell ice creams to pay prize money. The USP of horse racing is betting. As you'll see on Twitter all week, boom, boom, boom. It's betting. It gets adrenaline going. It gets people excited. It brings people together. And it's betting. That's what it does. For some unbeknown reason, we've lost our way in promoting the sport in the right way. And it's absolutely unbelievable. Disappointing from the BHA yet again. I wanted to see some promotion of betting this week, Julie Harrington. I wanted to see you on the side, the people that enjoy the sport and want to bet and win money, because that's what it's all about. And we've lost the plot there. Just ITV Racing, John. Did you watch Chris Hughes this week on ITV Racing?
I kind of kept the ITV business to a minimum, if I'm honest. I didn't want to spoil the festival.
Only thing that I saw was he was actually interviewing James Given on doping, because obviously James Given is now head of doping and fairness in racing on that aspect, former trainer. And I just thought Chris Hughes was a bit out of his depth on that one. It was the wrong man for the... it was the right interview, the wrong man to do it. But yeah, that's where we're at these days. Right, folks, it's a fun part of the show, and this is where we're going to talk about listeners' questions and also some messages I've received. I think we might become the Bar Stewards Festival, John. I've had some private messages this week. Nothing dirty, nothing, but some funny stories. One's a regular listener, but I'm not going to mention his name because he's asked not to. And I agree. This is quite a... If you think you've had bad luck this week, listen to this one. This is a bad beat story, he says. A real bad one. A real in-the-bin bad beat story. And on a mate's account, he says betting account, he's obviously banned from using bookies' accounts or whatever. Using a mate's Bet365 account, he did some combination exactors in the stayers. Dreamland of a massive payout. He said, I had literally a massive payout in the stayers. I got the forecast, Cider Billy and Dashel Drasher. This is the funny bit there, right? So basically, it's his mate's account. His mate wants to keep the Bet365 account. They're egging each other on, like, withdraw it, because they'd settled it. It was a mass amount. They withdrew the large amount of cash, only for his mate then to panic. He saw his Bet365 balance as minus whatever pounds after the real result being settled. So he panicked, put the money back in, only for them to say, right, your account's suspended under affordability checks. So they did the money, and then, well, he'd probably not get it back anyway.
He might as well have stiffed him for it.
Well, I thought that. But then, obviously, you got to put it into context. So if it's his mate's account, and his mate loves his Bet365 account, that's how he gets his bets on, and he's not banned. He wants it back. He's saying, fuck his mate. Yeah, fuck you, I want my account. So I get it. But then you think, fucking hell. So that's it. So that was a catastrophe event. Right, another fellow has been on. A name that you'll know, John, and many listeners, especially older ones, will know. Andrew Stringer.
All right, yeah.
Has been on, former trainer, and he's currently obviously working in racehorse haulage, transport, etc. And he sent a message to me, and I love this message. He says, just on our way back from watching the Fez in Tenerife, and he says, reading attendances were down with the strikes and cost of living cited as the cause, I feel I should highlight that this is possible way off the mark. He says, Tenerife over the years has become a great alternative to the ridiculous price hikes surrounding the festival. The bars here this week were rammed with thousands and thousands of punters from all over UK and Ireland, so much so that if you were in a bar seated by 11 a.m, you were standing. But you were served your beers in glasses, and they were very cheap. Bookies were taking cash bets with a maximum liability of £3,000, so you could back anything to win £3,000. Nothing going back to the levy. Again, a shame. This is where racing might send itself, John.
In this Yorkway.
Yeah. I would say we're going over. So nothing going back to the levy. The place was buzzing, and it's getting more and more popular every year. The missing 10,000 off the gate were probably all across in the Canaries, sent by Ryanair and Michael O'Leary. Yours in sport, Andrew Stringer. He's got a point that a lot of people I've seen on Twitter also regarding attendances have stayed away from the Fez because of they'd rather enjoy it in the local pub, John.
I sort of get a scenario where we could tee the Dante meeting up for the sportsmen's at Northallerton.
I think so.
There's outside seating. We can take a picnic.
Yeah. Well, this is it. But we don't need to do it at York because it's cheap. It's 15 quid to get in. That's the difference, in the middle. And that's where York, I think, excel in comparison to some tracks that are just mainly out of touch. Right, we've got a lot of points to get through, a lot of fun topics to get through some of your questions. Chris Gartner's been on. His highlight of the festival is Tony Martin getting his absolutely ripe. Flat runs, chase runs, different trips. Tried to get hold of that, Mr. UK handicapper. That's how you handicap one. It was like 2010 all over again, he says. And
he's still very much the boy, isn't he, Tony?
Yeah, and Davy Russell, he says he's riding like he's an old man now, which I'd probably agree with that as well. Maybe Davy Russell, that was the right time to retire when he did. I don't think he had a great festival in terms of how he rode, but there we are. Harry Diamond's been on. Cross country needs to be a handicap, otherwise it'd be a 2 or 3 runner race in terms of real contenders every season. Probably agree with that, Harry. Actually, you might get some bookmaker support on that in terms of
because it's easy punting, isn't it? We're not necessarily into Quevega territory where it's a cash point, but it's a handy little race for them that want to dig to try and get out the shit late in the day, isn't it?
And on that, how much did that Cotton put in Easy's Land in terms of like jungle juice? Because Easy's Land, when Cotton trained it, were turning up there and like winning on Billy Idol. And since it's moved stables, it can't raise a gallop.
It's a leg, can it?
Amazing stuff he must have, that Cotton. He must have had some proper juice. Absolutely ridiculous juice.
Mate, right to him and ask for a bottle.
Yeah. Tom Livermore's been on. He said highlight was definitely Honeysuckle winning her last race and getting a proper send-off. Low point was being stuck on a shuttle bus on the way to the track at midday with a sweary pisshead who was making such a scene that he decided to get off and walk.
I thought Frank was walking.
Yeah, it'd be Catherine Fry, that one. Paddy, highlight Honeysuckle for the Bromhead. When Chapman accused McCoy of being in JP's pocket on Tuesday's opening show, McCoy was furious. He liked that bit. Low light, everything I backed on Thursday and the slow pace in so many of the races. But this is the thing, John. We've said it about the whip, etc. That it's like they're saving themselves for late in the race, everybody. And that's why the front end's holding up more.
Yeah.
Tutacoop's been on. I wonder, would any more Irish yards think of transferring or at least having a satellite yard in the UK, given the success of Paddy Neville with a real whacker? Might be an idea, perhaps. Derby Dazzlers attended the fairs, and he said 10 to 15k off the gate made the difference in terms of pleasurable experience. Obviously, a good thing that you can have a piss and a shit, etc.
I'd like 15k off the gate on Ebra Day, to be honest.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Northern Gypsy
Well,
Fair.
I wouldn't mind 35k off the to myself.
For cock. MCF cock been on. I can't read it. Can we have a 10-minute analysis segment of Langer Dance 3 runs prior to Cheltenham? Well, we said it, that the Irish do it. Come on, MCF cock. So it's the way it is. Ellen Sheridan, she's a good fan of the show. Constitutional, even you flat rats. She's called us flat rats, John, when you've won the Naps King for the winter table. Terrible from Sheridan. Awful comments. She says, even you must have enjoyed this one from Constitutional. And low point was false starts and bad starts. The thing is, for me, why are they starting on that bend when they don't have to?
The worst thing for this particular flat rat was the Nathalleton Feed Merchant just having all the winnings from Corrack Rambler on Constitution Hill.
Oh,
I had him on my left shoulder again, bellowing in my ear while that race was made up.
Awful, isn't it? It's just awful. It's an awful feeling. I feel for you that day. Andy McGee highlights Marine National real whacker. Low points, realising you wear it well. Followed the horse all year, and he didn't know it was running.
Tracker.
Yeah, exactly. Richard Lee, how long before Cheltenham have to level the uphill finish on the grounds of animal welfare? Well, as we've seen from the sport, once you start ceding to safety campaigners and health and safety chitties, it will only get worse. Believe me, this is...
Well, the horses break down more running on level and downhill, so you'd say that uphill's the way to go.
You would actually, yeah. Think about running down the stairs, John.
They're probably more likely to turn Cheltenham into a spiral-shaped racecourse and have it all uphill.
Absolutely. To finish the show off, John, it wasn't all bad at Cheltenham this week, if anyone thought that it was not the meeting for them. The good old lappy bar, the lap dancing bar, eroticas,
Yes.
eroticats, in fact, at Cheltenham. They were having a roaring trade, apparently. So basically, girls from all over the country were coming down. It was like Davos, John. There was like girls from all over the land coming down.
Strippers.
Yeah, Kylie from Manchester, 27, dancer. We heard about it through the grapevine, like Marvin Gaye. It's like the red light district.
Be on the wrong grapevine.
Chelsea, 29, of Liverpool, said these guys are away from their girlfriends, drunk and looking to splash their cash. And while one punter said, Eroticats is great, it's 3 floors of whores, John.
I didn't know any of this was going on. I think I might have to have a word with Fry and spend the week down there next year.
Well, this is it.
I won't go anywhere near the races, but probably end up spunking $3.5 grand.
Yeah. So good old Eroticats had a good week. They've made plenty. The dancers have made plenty. The poor old Billy Bunters maybe have struggled on the last 2 days, but that was the Fez. And I hope you've enjoyed this show. Me and John have certainly given it our all, discussing the topic, and also a little bit of alternative topics there in terms of the whip and the fences at Cheltenham, which breeders might want, and punters alike, might want to change their ways in what they either breed to or bet in the forthcoming seasons ahead. That's all from me and John. We're back as usual on Friday. Bye for now.